If someone asked you right now to guess how much you spend every month on subscriptions, you'd probably land on a number somewhere around $80 or $90. When researchers ask consumers that exact question directly, the average answer comes back at $86. But then researchers try a different exercise. They sit those same people down and have them list out every single recurring digital and physical charge, line by line: streaming video, cloud storage, meal kits, software, and fitness apps. On the left is the perceived $86. On the right, the actual total jumps to $219 a month. Tracking this over several years reveals an identical pattern. Consumers underestimate their subscription spending by 2.5 times. Zoom out from one household, and $133 blind spot scales up rapidly. We are looking at a global subscription economy projected to approach the $1 trillion mark in the near future. This gap exists because of a specific psychological bet that once you sign up, you will, statistically, forget to cancel. This bet has transformed how nearly every industry generates revenue, turning a generation of owners into permanent renters of their own lives. To understand how we arrived at a $200 monthly drain, we have to look at what happened to the products themselves. The concept of consumer ownership has been replaced by an entirely new model. Go back 20 years. Buying software or a movie meant a single upfront payment for a physical disc or a permanent license key. Once you bought it, the product was yours indefinitely. Today, the tools you use for your livelihood and the media libraries you watch operate on a different logic. You are renting access. The moment a monthly payment lapses, the product stops functioning entirely. Recently, this logic has extended directly into physical hardware you already bought at full price. Automakers have actively tested locking factory-installed hardware features, like heated seats and adaptive suspension modes, behind remote monthly paywalls. These components are already physically built into a vehicle you paid tens of thousands of dollars to purchase outright. When a company eliminates ownership, a finite product sale turns into a compounding cash extraction engine. It continues generating income indefinitely, without requiring a single ounce of extra sales effort from the corporation. To see why every major corporation on Earth abandoned product sales at exactly the same time, you have to look at the financial markets. When a company relies on traditional sales, its future cash flow is uncertain. Investors have to guess if next quarter's volume will meet expectations. That uncertainty gets priced directly into a lower, more volatile corporate valuation. Wall Street solved this volatility by prioritizing a specific metric: annual recurring revenue, or ARR. This is simply the measure of a company's predictable subscription income. This graph shows ARR in practice. Volatile sales transform into a highly predictable forecast. The incentive is clear. A recurring subscription dollar is worth 5 times more to a stock price than one-time product revenue. Wall Street rewards it with a massive valuation multiplier. This means the subscription model is not just a convenient billing option. It is the most financially rewarded architecture a corporation can build to inflate its stock price. We are living in an economic reality where corporations are incentivized to prioritize predictable, recurring cash flow above almost any other financial metric, which brings us back to the consumer, sitting at home, quietly feeding this massive valuation engine every single billing cycle. If a multi-billion-dollar stock price relies entirely on permanent retention, then a single user canceling their plan represents a measurable threat. It is an immediate loss to the valuation investors are pricing the entire enterprise around. So if keeping you subscribed is worth billions of dollars to corporate bottom lines, how far will tech companies go to protect those retention metrics when you actually decide you want to leave? Getting your credit card was only the first half of the corporate playbook. The second half is the billions of dollars spent engineering maze-like cancellation flows, designed specifically to guarantee you never quite find the exit door. The user experience design industry has a name for this, borrowed from a pest control product: the Roach Motel pattern. The core concept is highly intentional. This digital environment makes it difficult to check out, while keeping it as easy as possible to check in. Consumer advocacy groups auditing cancellation flows across hundreds of digital platforms have documented a specific obstacle course. Companies bury cancellation buttons multiple menu layers deep, intercept exit requests with mandatory retention surveys, and load repetitive confirmation prompts with dynamic discount pop-ups to disrupt the process. For specialized services like gyms or telecommunication bundles, the process goes further. They force a mandatory live phone call during restrictive call center hours, reimposing the human friction that they eliminated during sign-up. This calculated restructuring of commerce weaponizes algorithmic inertia against the consumer. Cancellation mazes explain why people who try to leave give up, but neuroscience explains why millions never even attempt to leave in the first place. Brain imaging studies examining financial transactions have identified a distinct neural reaction known as the pain of paying. Whenever someone physically hands over cash, brain regions associated with physical discomfort light up. This evolved as a natural psychological break, forcing us to evaluate whether an expense is justified. This diagram compares dollar amounts against active psychological engagement. Recurring digital billing is designed to bypass this neural alarm. Price points like $4.99 or $9.99 sit just below the threshold of active financial scrutiny. Because these individual charges rarely trigger the pain of paying threshold, the average household now carries 8 to 12 recurring charges. They process silently in the background, scattered across different billing dates, and drain hundreds of dollars every month without showing up as a unified conscious expense. By removing the psychological friction of the transaction, companies can extract wealth while the consumer remains unaware of the aggregate drain. When a user finally notices that financial drain and hits the cancellation maze, they run straight into a behavioral economics trap: status quo bias. This bias is the human tendency to remain passively enrolled in a system. The friction of initiating change creates enough mental resistance to delay taking action. Former product designers have confirmed that they face internal corporate pressure to engineer this cancellation friction to keep users enrolled. Every additional billing cycle a customer remains enrolled, even reluctantly, supports the recurring revenue metrics that dictate enterprise valuation. Now, this perpetual rental model is expanding from digital software directly into the physical world, targeting factory-installed hardware. Connected car manufacturers have begun charging recurring monthly tolls to activate factory-installed heated seats and remote ignition hardware. Buyers have already paid tens of thousands of dollars to physically own these components, yet they are locked out of using them by a software paywall. Do you believe it should ever be legal for a company to lock a physical, factory-installed hardware component in a car you already own behind a recurring monthly paywall? This tactic marks a shift in commerce, the conversion of permanent ownership into a perpetual state of renting. This consumer extraction triggered a major federal regulatory battle. In late 2024, the Federal Trade Commission finalized its update to the negative option rule, a mandate universally known as the click-to-cancel rule. The principle is straightforward. If a company lets you subscribe online with one click, it must legally provide an equally simple one-click online cancellation process. Corporate trade lobbies filed lawsuits to block enforcement. They initiated federal court battles over regulatory reach, aiming to maintain their existing cancellation flows. These legal challenges underscore the priority companies place on retention friction as they fight to protect the revenue generated by users who struggle to leave. The modern subscription economy is a highly calculated engine, carefully designed to keep your bank accounts quietly leaking cash. Reclaiming financial control requires one non-negotiable step: audit your bank statement today. Itemize every automatic charge. Audit what you actually use. Push through the cancellation mazes and shut down every forgotten service. Look at your own bank statement honestly right now. What is one subscription you forgot you were paying for, and how many months did it charge you before you noticed? Share your subscription horror stories in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe for weekly deep dives into consumer psychology and finance.